All right, let's talk about that feeling. You know, the one that feels like you're living in a pressure cooker, the sense that you constantly have to perform just to keep up. Today, we're going to break down what's called the performance trap and see if we can find a way back to, well, our authentic selves.
You know, this feeling, shared by a user on Reddit, it just hits so close to home for a lot of us. It's that quiet, nagging feeling that your actual worth isn't being seen, all because it isn't loud and flashy. It just perfectly captures this conflict that's so hard to put into words.
So let's just ask it directly. Do you ever feel like you're playing a part? At work, with friends, maybe even online? This feeling that you have to act a certain way to be valued? That's right at the heart of what we're digging into today.
Okay, so first up, we're going to tackle the myth of more. This is that cultural belief that our value is somehow tied to constant achievement. It's a nonstop hustle that basically puts us on an unending treadmill.
Hustle culture. We hear it all the time. It's this idea that to succeed, you have to sacrifice your own well-being. It's the pressure to be answering emails at 10 p.m., to take on that extra project for no extra pay, and really to just live to work. And it's sold to us as the only way to get ahead.
And the cost of this? It's staggering. A shocking 84% of workers say they've felt burned out. And we're not just talking about being tired here. This is deep, emotional, and physical exhaustion from just constant work stress. The hustle has a very real and very high price tag.
So, in response to all this pressure, we've started seeing this trend of quiet quitting. Now, it often gets a bad rap, framed as people being lazy. But really, it's more of a defense mechanism. It's not about slacking off. It's about doing your job, the one you were hired to do, and then setting firm boundaries to protect your own mental health. It's a direct pushback against these totally unsustainable expectations.
So, how do we get off this treadmill? Well, there's some really brilliant practical advice on this. First, you have to untangle your self-worth from your net worth. You are not your bank account. Second, create some boundaries around money anxiety, like schedule specific times to review your finances so you're not worrying about it 24/7. And third, set goals that actually motivate you without paralyzing you with fear. It's all about sustainable growth, not just stressful, endless striving.
And this leads us right into our second big idea, the myth of loud. This is the belief that to be seen as valuable, your confidence has to be this big, performative, attention-grabbing thing.
You know, the author Susan Cain actually gave this a name, the extrovert ideal. It's this widespread, often unspoken belief that the best way to be is outgoing, in charge, alpha. Our schools, our workplaces, they're often built around this ideal. They reward the people who speak up the most, not always the people who have the best idea.
And this brings us right back to that Reddit post we started with. The extrovert ideal makes us think that only flashy confidence gets you noticed and gets you rewarded. It pressures people with a quieter nature to just fake it till they make it, because they start to believe their authentic self just isn't good enough.
To show you what's wrong with that thinking, a Reddit user offered this fantastic analogy. We all kind of assume red cars get pulled over the most, right? Because they stand out. But the data shows it's actually white cars. Performative, loud confidence is the red car. It's just more noticeable. That doesn't mean it's more effective or even more valued.
And that really gets to the core difference between the two. See, flashy confidence is all about an external performance. It's looking for validation from other people, and honestly, it can often be a mask for insecurity. Quiet confidence, on the other hand, comes from a real place of self-esteem. It's internal. It doesn't need a stage.
Okay, so we've deconstructed these myths of more and loud. Now for the last part. How do we actually find the path back to what's real? How do we get from a life of performance to one of authenticity?
This is the key question, isn't it? If we can see that both hustle culture and this extrovert ideal are pushing us into a trap, one that just leads to burnout and feeling disconnected, then what are we supposed to do instead?
A psychoanalyst named D.W. Winnicott actually gives us a really powerful way to think about this. He talked about the true self. That's who we are when we're just being ourselves, spontaneous and authentic. Then there's the false self, which is like a protective shell we build to meet the world's expectations.
And here's where it all connects. The performance trap is living from that false self. It's the sheer exhaustion that comes from constantly holding up this facade, trying to satisfy the demands of hustle culture and the extrovert ideal, while our true self stays hidden away.
So how do we strengthen our true self? Well, it comes down to a few key practices. We have to separate our worth from those external things.
We set boundaries just like the quiet quitters do. We learn to value the deep, quiet work that introverts are so good at. We find what Susan Cain calls restorative niches, those spaces where we can just drop the act and be ourselves. And most importantly, we remember that real, solid confidence, it comes from being authentic.
This quote from Susan Cain just sums it up perfectly. Every single moment we spend trying to maintain that false self, we lose a little piece of who we really are. Authenticity isn't just some buzzword, it's about preserving the core of you.
And let's be really clear here. This is not a call to drop out or give up. Shifting from performance to authenticity, it's not about rejecting success. It's about redefining it on your own terms. It's about finding a way to achieve things that doesn't lead to burnout and that hollow feeling. It's about building a life that feels as good on the inside as it might look on the outside.
So we'll leave you with this final, really important question. If you could just lay down the armor of the false self, who is the person underneath? Answering that just might be the most important work you ever do.